I have autism. My billionaire parents decided to find me a companion from an orphanage. Michael was cheerful and outgoing. Daniel was thoughtful and understanding. As I reached out to take one of their hands, something strange appeared before my eyes. Don't separate Michael and the female lead. They're supposed to be adopted together. Don't pick Daniel either. He just wants to study hard and meet the genius female lead at the top. He has no time to play some redemption game with a mute girl. This mute girl loves using money to buy people's dignity. She deserves to lose everything when Michael, Daniel, and the female lead team up to destroy her family. In the end, I chose neither of them. 'Cause after reading those floating words for the first time in 8 years, I spoke. For 8 years, I hadn't spoken a single word. Doctors diagnosed me with autism. My parents were desperate. They were the richest people in this city, but all their money couldn't buy their daughter saying dad or mom. Finally, they decided to buy me a friend. The car stopped at the orphanage entrance. The director brought 2 boys to meet me. On the left was Michael, like a little sun. His eyes sparkled. His smile could melt winter snow. When he saw me, he waved enthusiastically. Michael. You're really pretty. On the right was Daniel, quiet and gentle with a mature understanding beyond his years. He just nodded at me. His eyes held no pity, only respectful equality. My parents watched, hopefully wanting me to choose one of these completely different boys to help bring me out of my isolated world. I raised my hand, helplessly reaching toward them. Just as my fingertips were about to touch one of their sleeves, several translucent, glowing lines of text suddenly invaded my vision. High drama incoming. Full side character choosing the male lead. This mute girl is about to separate. Michael and Vivian are tragic couple. Please don't choose Daniel. Our genius just wants to study and meet the female lead at the top. He has no time for your rich family redemption game. It's her using her dirty money to treat the main characters like toys. She deserves to lose everything. When Michael and Daniel team up with Vivian to destroy her family and leave her homeless, thinking about her ending makes me so happy. Typical canon fodder script. Her only purpose is to make our precious female lead look better. Bullet comments. I couldn't speak, but I could read. My life, everything real in front of me, was just cannon fodder in some wish fulfillment story. Just a stepping stone for the protagonists. Mute girl, evil side character, family destroyed. These words stabbed into my heart that had been silent for 8 years. Like knives. My entire future had already been written as a grand tragedy. All my struggles were just jokes to make others feel good. Why an unprecedented rage exploded from deep in my chest, burning through my entire body. A hot surge of air broke through the chains in my throat. I forced out the first syllable of my life.
Dad, Mom.
My voice was hoarse and ugly, but my parents looked struck by lightning. The next second, my mom covered her mouth as tears streamed down her face. My dad, a man who was ruthless in business, had tears in his eyes. He knelt down, cupping my face with trembling hands. Baby, did you just speak? I looked at his bloodshot eyes, at the bullet comments, still frantically scrolling with curses and mockery, and opened my mouth again, using all my strength to clearly call out Dad. The entire world seemed to hit the restart button for me. In that moment, speaking became the biggest celebration in our family. My parents were overjoyed, as if they wanted to compensate me overnight. With all the love and resources they'd saved for 8 years, the best speech therapists, the top psychologists, the most patient teachers, I absorbed everything frantically. My condition improved. A little girl, who once lived in her own world, quickly grew into an articulate, elegant young lady. Under their love, I no longer needed someone to help me out of the darkness. The adoption plan naturally fell through, but my parents still wanted to do good in my name. They decided to sponsor orphanage children long-term, sending them to the best schools, with generous living expenses until they turned 18. That day we returned to the orphanage. A teacher lined up a group of children, eagerly recommending one girl to my parents. This is Vivian, our best student. Straight A's every year, very mature. I followed the teacher's pointing finger. The girl wore a faded dress, but carried pride and superiority that didn't match her poverty. She looked at my parents, unable to hide the hope and desire in her eyes. Bullet comments appeared again. Here she is, female lead Vivian. Cool, genius, little white lotus. I love her. Our Vivian doesn't need their dirty money. She'll get into the best university through her own efforts. That's called dignity, right? Accepting help means being beneath them. Our female lead will never accept such charity. So she was the so-called female lead. I watched her pretending to be proud while clearly desperate, and suddenly found it amusing. The gaze moved past her to a boy huddled in the corner, at the back of the line. He was thin, head down, face unclear, radiating an isolation that didn't fit in with everyone else. A few scattered bullet comments floated by. That's Ryan in the corner, right? His dad's a gambling addict. Mom ran off with someone else and dumped him at the orphanage. This kid has the worst background. Weird personality, doesn't fit in, but has a stubborn determination in his bones. I raised my hand, pointing at that boy him. My parents were surprised but respected my choice. They walked to the boy, gently explaining their intention. The boy's head snapped up, revealing a delicate but guarded face. He stared at me intensely, eyes full of confusion and scrutiny. Vivian's hopeful expression froze. She looked at me in disbelief. Then, at the insignificant Ryan, unable to hide the jealousy in her eyes. The bullet comments were also surprised. Why isn't she following the script? Why him of all people? Whatever doesn't affect the main plot. Our Vivian can shine on her own anyway. I met Vivian's resentful gaze and smiled slightly. Right? You're so proud. Rely on yourself. Then, 10 years later, University of America opening ceremony. As the freshman representative, I stood before thousands delivering a speech under the spotlight. I was confident and composed. My words clear, drawing waves of applause. After the speech, I walked off stage, casually scanning the freshman section. Then I saw 3 familiar yet strange faces. Michael, Vivian, Daniel. They actually got into the same university as me. The bullet comments exploded before my eyes like New Year's fireworks. The wheels of fate are turning. The main character team is finally assembled. I knew it. The plot has auto-correction. Round and round. The evil second female lead still has to face our protagonist team. Quick, quick, quick. Can't wait to see our Vivian with her 2 protect actors. Totally destroy this capitalist princess. Crush her. I watched the bullet comment celebration, a cold smile forming at my lips back on track. No. From the moment I opened my mouth, your so-called track had already been crushed to dust by my own hands. I didn't choose them. And their fates had long since deviated from that wish fulfillment story's trajectory. The scattered information in the bullet comments pieced together their last 10 years. For me, Michael and Vivian got their wish and were adopted together. But that adoptive couple were complete control freaks. Under the guise of strict requirements, they actually used them as tools to satisfy their own vanity. Without the generous scholarship from my family, they had to constantly please their adoptive parents for a pittance of living expenses. 10 years later, Michael's face no longer held that sunny, cheerful smile from before standing with Vivian. His eyes were filled with inescapable oppression and exhaustion. Daniel was never adopted. He relied on meager subsidies and part-time jobs to study his way here. He did meet at the top with Vivian, but years of poverty and isolation made his personality increasingly gloomy and withdrawn. Standing in the crowd, he looked at everyone like they owed him $1 million. The bullet comments wailed. What's happening? Where's our wish fulfillment protagonist team? Why does everyone look so miserable? Where's my sunshine boy Michael? My gentle second male lead, Daniel? How did they all become like this? The entire plot collapsed. The auditorium buzzed with the chaotic energy of 3,000 freshmen, but my world was silent, save for the rhythmic tapping of my heels and the frantic scrolling of the translucent text hanging in the air. System alert. Plot deviation detected. Severity. High. Why is the villainess looking at them like that? She should be trembling. Vivian is going to crush her. Just wait for the scholarship arc. I adjusted the microphone on the podium, my expression placid. I wasn't the trembling autistic girl from 10 years ago. I was the heir to the Sterling Empire, and I had spent a decade turning my disability into a fortress. Down in the crowd, Vivian stood out, not because of a glowing halo, but because of her sheer desperation. She wore a white dress that was trying too hard to look innocent. Beside her, Michael looked like a wilted plant, his shoulders hunched. Daniel glared at the floor, radiating a dark, damp resentment. I walked down the stairs, the crowd parting for me like the Red Sea. I didn't stop in front of them. I walked past them. Wait! The voice was shrill. Vivian stepped out, blocking my path. The bullet comment screamed, here it comes. The confrontation. Slap her face, Vivian. You don't remember us, do you? Vivian asked, her voice trembling with a practiced fragility. We were at the orphanage.
I'm Vivian.
This is Michael and Daniel. We worked so hard to get here. She paused, waiting for the crowd to admire her grit. I stopped. I looked her up and down, my gaze clinical. I remember, I said, my voice cool and even. You were the one who didn't want my family's dirty money. Congratulations on making it here on your own. I gestured to her shoes, expensive limited editions, likely bought on credit or Michael's dime. Although, looking at your attire, it seems your definition of on your own is quite flexible. A ripple of laughter moved through the bystanders. Vivian turned red. WTF? Since when does the villainess have a mouth? She's bullying our Viv. Evil rich bitch. Suddenly, a shadow fell over Vivian. A young man stepped out from behind me. He was tall, wearing a simple black turtleneck and a gray coat, but the cut was impeccable. His hair was dark, falling slightly over eyes that were sharp, cold, and utterly indifferent to everyone, except me. Ryan, the boy who had huddled in the corner. Now, at 18, he was terrifyingly beautiful in a way that made people nervous. "Is there a problem, Miss Sterling?" Ryan asked. His voice was deep, a low rumble that silenced the immediate area. Vivian's eyes widened. She looked from me to Ryan. The shock on her face was delicious. She recognized him, the rat of the orphanage. "Ryan," Michael whispered, stepping forward, his eyes wide with disbelief. You're wearing a Patek Philippe?" Ryan didn't even look at Michael. He focused entirely on checking the time on that watch. "We're late for the board meeting, Alara. Your father is waiting." He placed a hand on the small of my back, protective, possessive, and firm. "Let's go," I said. As we walked away, leaving the protagonists standing in the dust of our wake, the bullet comments lost their minds. "Who is that guy?" "That's Ryan? The cannon fodder kid. Why is he so hot? Why is he with the villainess? Wait, did he say board meeting?" I suppressed a smile. "You have no idea." The scholarship arc the bullet comments had predicted arrived 2 months later, but not in the way they expected. My parents had ceased the random charity program years ago. Instead, they focused all resources on the Sterling Foundation, which I now managed. Vivian, Michael, and Daniel had applied. Of course they had. I sat in the high-rise office, the city skyline sprawling behind me. Ryan sat on the leather sofa, typing furiously on a laptop. He wasn't just my bodyguard or companion, he was a quantitative analyst prodigy. While Daniel had been studying for grades, Ryan had been studying the stock market with my father's capital. "They submitted their applications," Ryan said, not looking up. "Vivian's essay is plagiarized." I spun my chair around. "From where?" "A blog post from 2018. Minor adjustments. She thinks because it's obscure, no one will check." Ryan finally looked up, his dark eyes gleaming with amusement. "Michael's financial disclosure is fraudulent. He didn't list the debt his adoptive parents put in his name. And Daniel, well, Daniel's grades are real, but his disciplinary record isn't." I looked at the floating text in the air. "The system will force the scholarship. Vivian has 100% luck stat. Just wait, the villainess will try to rig it, but the dean will step in. Release the plagiarism check to the scholarship committee," I ordered. "Anonymously. Let the system handle it. And the others? Invite them for an interview." I smiled. "I want to see the script try to fix this." The interview day was rainy. The bullet comments were complaining about the gloomy atmosphere, claiming it foreshadowed my doom. Michael entered first. He looked exhausted. His clothes were worn. The sunshine was gone, replaced by the jittery anxiety of a battered dog. "Alara. Miss Sterling," he corrected himself. "Seat, Michael." He sat. He looked at me, and for a second, the script seemed to take hold. His eyes watered. I regret it. That day. At the orphanage. I should have waved harder. Ah, poor baby. Redemption arc starts now. I leaned forward. "You didn't choose me because you wanted a friend, Michael. You wanted a savior. You wanted my parents to save you from poverty. You're not sad you missed me. You're sad you missed the money." His face paled. "I can't give you the scholarship," I said. "Your financial background is a mess. However," I slid a business card across the table. "My legal team handles emancipation cases for exploited youth pro bono. If you want to escape your adoptive parents, call them." Michael stared at the card. The script demanded he throw it in my face and storm out to protect Vivian. "Don't take it. It's a trap." Michael's hand trembled. He reached out and took the card. "Thank you," he whispered. Error. Character deviation. 1 down. Vivian's downfall wasn't dramatic. It was bureaucratic. When the plagiarism accusation hit, she didn't have a wealthy family to hush it up. She didn't have a cold Duke of the North to murder the accusers. She had a university disciplinary board. I attended the open hearing. I sat in the back row, Ryan beside me. Vivian stood at the podium, tears streaming down her face. I didn't know. I was just inspired. Someone is trying to frame me because they're jealous of my talent. She pointed a shaking finger at me. It's her, Alara Sterling. She hates me because I'm the what? The dean asked, peering over his glasses. The female lead? Some students snickered. The bullet comments were frantic. Use the charisma skill. Cry harder. Why isn't anyone believing her? This world is broken. Miss Vivian, the dean sighed. The text is a 98% match. You are on academic probation. Scholarship denied. Vivian collapsed. It was a theatrical feint, clearly designed for Daniel to catch her. But Daniel wasn't there. I had found Daniel earlier that morning. He was working 3 jobs to support his genius studies. I simply offered him a paid internship at a competitor firm, far away from the university, far away from Vivian. He had taken it without hesitation. Money buys dignity, Daniel had muttered, echoing the bullet comments from 10 years ago, but this time, he wasn't mocking me. He was understanding me. Vivian hit the floor. No one rushed to help her except a janitor. This is impossible. The plot is collapsing. I looked at the floating text and mentally whispered, "You're not watching a story anymore. You're watching reality." With the protagonist team disbanded, the bullet comments became aggressive. They stopped being commentary and started becoming threats. Warning, narrative correction imminent. Target Alara must be neutralized to reset the timeline.
Car accident scénario loading.
85%. I started seeing red warning markers in my vision.
Danger. Danger.
Ryan, I said one evening, as we left the library, drive yourself tonight. Take the armored sedan. Ryan paused, his hand on the car door. He looked at me, reading the tension in my jaw. He didn't ask why. He never asked why. He just nodded. Get in. We were on the coastal highway. The red text was blinding now. Brakes fail in 3, 2,
1.
Ryan, slow down. Now, I commanded. Ryan slammed the brakes instantly. A split second later, a massive delivery truck blew through the intersection ahead of us, running a red light at 80 miles per hour. If we had maintained our speed, we would have been crushed. The wind of the passing truck shook our heavy car.
Failed. Failed.
Failed. How does she know? Is she a bug? Ryan stared at the disappearing taillights of the truck. His knuckles were white on the steering wheel. He turned to me, his eyes dark with a terrifying intensity. Alara, he said softly. What are you seeing? I had never told anyone. Not my parents. Not the doctors. But looking at Ryan, the boy I had pulled from the shadows, the man who had just trusted my instinct over the laws of traffic, I realized I wasn't alone. I see ghosts, I whispered. Ghosts who want to write our story for us. Ryan unbuckled his seatbelt. He leaned over, cupping my face, mimicking the gesture my father had made 10 years ago when I first spoke. Let them write, Ryan said, his voice fierce. I'll burn the paper. Years passed. We graduated. The university arc ended not with a bang, but with a whimper for the original leads. Vivian dropped out. She couldn't handle the humiliation and the lack of funding. She became an influencer, posting heavily filtered photos and ranting about how society was rigged against real people. Michael emancipated himself, became a decent accountant, and disappeared into the suburbs. He sent me a Christmas card once. I didn't reply. Daniel climbed the corporate ladder at the rival firm, becoming a shark. He hated everyone, but he respected me. We were enemies in business, but at galas, we would nod at each other. Acknowledgement between two people who knew the world was cold. I took over Sterling Enterprises. Ryan started his own tech conglomerate, Aegis, which worked exclusively in partnership with my family. But the bullet comments didn't leave. They changed. They became the readers of a sequel. Sequel start. Return of the Queen Vivian. She's back with a mysterious heir. Time for the revenge plot. Vivian had indeed returned. She had married a shady real estate mogul who was twice her age and had questionable liquidity. She began attacking Sterling Enterprises in the press, claiming we used illegal labor, claiming we were environmental disasters. It was all lies, but the public opinion bar in my vision was dropping. She's leveraging bot farms, Ryan said, pacing my office. It's not just bad press. It's a coordinated attack. Someone is funding her. The system gave her a chaotic buff. Burned the witch Alara. I stood up and walked to the floor-to-ceiling window. Ryan, by the platform. Ryan stopped. What? The social media platform she's using.
Buy it.
Hostile takeover. Alara, that's billions. Do we have it? Ryan smirked. A dangerous, predatory smile. We have it. Buy it. Then release the IP logs of every bot farm she's using. The purchase of the social media giant Pulse by Aegis Tech shook the global markets. 3 days later, the purge happened. Millions of fake accounts were suspended instantly. Vivian's follower count dropped from 5 million to 12,000. Simultaneously, we released the data. We showed the payments from Vivian's husband to the bot farms. We showed the fabricated evidence. Vivian's revenge tour imploded on live television. She was in the middle of an interview, accusing me of corruption, when the host received the breaking news. He read the report live on air. Vivian's face went from smug to sheet white. But then, the text in my eyes started to glitch. It wasn't just scrolling, it was tearing apart. System crash. Narrative destabilize. Reset required. Hard reset. The world flickered. I was standing in my office, and then suddenly, I was back in the orphanage. I was 8 years old. The car engine hummed. My hand was reaching out toward Michael and Daniel. Restart. You can't escape the loop, Alara. Pick one. The panic seized my throat. I was back. It was all gone.
Ryan.
My company. My voice. Baby, who do you want to choose? My mother's voice. I looked at Michael. He was smiling that fake sunny smile. I looked at Daniel. Pick one.
Pick one.
Stick to the script. I trembled. My adult mind was trapped in this child's body. Was the last 10 years a dream? Was this my hell? Then I looked at the corner. The shadows.
Empty.
Ryan wasn't there. The horror that washed over me was colder than any winter. If Ryan wasn't there, then he wasn't a character. He had been deleted because he wasn't part of the original code.
Y crua.
Alara? My father looked down, worried. I screamed. It wasn't a word. It was a raw, primal scream of refusal. I grabbed a vase from the director's table and smashed it on the floor. I won't play. I screamed, my voice high and childish, but fueled by adult rage. I won't play your game. I ran past Michael and Daniel. I ran to the back of the room, to the empty corner where Ryan should have been. I clawed at the air, clawing at the texture of reality. Ryan, I screamed. Come back. Critical error. Unauthorized entity detected. The air shimmered, like heat haze. A hand reached out of the nothingness. It wasn't a child's hand. It was a man's hand, wearing a Patek Philippe watch. It grabbed my small, 8-year-old wrist. I heard you. A deep voice rumbled from the void. The orphanage walls shattered like glass. I woke up gasping, my sheets soaked in sweat. I was in my penthouse. The digital clock read 3 a.m. Ryan was sitting on the edge of the bed, gripping my hand so hard it hurt. His face was pale, his eyes wide with a fear I had never seen in him. Alara, he choked out. I sat up, touching his face.
He was solid.
He was real. I went back. To the beginning. I know, Ryan whispered. I felt you go. You started fading. Literally fading from existence. The monitors, they said your heart stopped. I looked around the room. The floating text was there, but it was dim. Broken.
Static.
Connection lost. Story cancelled. Author dropped. They tried to reset me. I said, my voice shaking. But you pull me back. Ryan pulled me into his arms, burying his face in my neck. You anchored me to this world 10 years ago, Alara. Did you think I wouldn't anchor you back? We stayed like that for hours, until the sun rose over the city. A real sun. Not a description in a book. The bullet comments were gone. For the first time in 18 years, my vision was clear. The aftermath of the glitch was subtle but permanent. Vivian's husband went to jail for fraud. Vivian, destitute and disgraced, left the city. The world seemed to become more mundane. People stopped acting like caricatures. The weather wasn't always rainy during sad moments. Traffic didn't move according to dramatic timing. I visited the old orphanage one last time. It was being converted into an art center funded by the Sterling Foundation. I walked the halls. I stopped at the spot where the boys had stood. It's over, I said aloud. What is? Ryan asked, walking beside me. The show. I turned to him. We were standing in the sunlight. He looked older than his years, but the hardness in his eyes had softened. Do you believe in fate, Ryan? No, he said immediately. I believe in investment. You invested in me. I invested in you. The return on investment has been satisfactory. I laughed. It was a free, genuine sound. Just satisfactory? He smirked, leaning down to kiss me. Exceptional. We didn't get married in a church or a grand hotel. We got married on the roof of the Sterling Tower, overlooking the empire we had built. It was a small ceremony. My parents were there, looking older but happier than ever. My father cried again. There were no sudden interruptions.
No objectes. No dramatic randstorms.
As we exchanged rings, I looked out at the sky. A single, faint line of text floated across the blue, like a dying ember. Thank you for reading. And then it vanished. I looked at Ryan.
I do, I said.
I do, he replied. 10 years later, I sat in the garden, watching a 5-year-old boy chase a golden retriever.
Mom.
Dad says I can't hack the Pentagon until I'm 6. I sighed, putting down my tea. Listen to your father, Leo. Ryan walked out onto the terrace, holding a tablet. He looked at our son, then at me. He's got your stubbornness. And your logic. I countered. My life was boring now. Wonderfully, beautifully boring. No drama. No grand tragedies. Just business meetings, family dinners, and the occasional headache from raising a genius child. I thought about Michael sometimes. He was a manager at a logistics firm. He had a wife and 2 kids. He looked happy in his social media photos, genuinely happy, not the sunshine, fake happiness of the past. I thought about Daniel.
He was a CEO now.
Still single, still grumpy, but he donated heavily to autism research. And Vivian? I heard she opened a small bakery in a coastal town.
No schemes. No plats.
Just bread. Maybe she finally found dignity in labor rather than destiny. I closed my eyes, listening to the wind in the trees. There were no voices. No comments.
No script.
The page in front of me was blank. And I held the pen. Alara? Ryan called out. Coming inside? It's getting cold. I opened my eyes and smiled at the two men I loved most in this world. Coming, I said. I walked into the house, closing the door on the story, and stepping into a life that was finally, truly mine.